we're getting away from the manual way of doing business in the city of Cleveland. We're going to go to curbside recycling, which would actually be better for the city and also for the residents too. The less that we put into the landfill will be more of a financial savings for the city, and also that's less garbage that's going into the landfill. Recycling is easy as 1, 2, 3. You bag them, you put them into the blue container, you roll it to the curb, and the truck will do the rest. We're committed to making Cleveland a cleaner, greener city of choice.
Hello, everybody, and once again, welcome to TV20 as King of the Ring Boxing Series. This is series number 6, and when you talk about some of the finest amateur boxers throughout the Midwest and throughout the country, they are right here on the King of the Ring Boxing Series here at TV20. We're going to go from 65 pounds all the way up to the big boys over 240 pounds. It's all about winning that championship, and it's all about seeing some of the best young amateurs. This has been a 3-day tournament. There was a quarterfinals, a semifinals, and now the finals. Now let's go up to our ring announcer, Paul Shield, as we get ready for our national anthem.
And a very good afternoon, boxing fans, and welcome to the Firebird Athletic Center right here in Bedford, Ohio, where this afternoon, Production Plus Production and King of the Ring present the tournament to find out just who is the King of Kings. Boxing fans, each of our bouts this evening are sanctioned by a USA Boxing and Lake Erie Association. Fight fans, at this time, if you would please rise for a 10-count moment of silence to remember all of our heroes who fight for our freedom around the world. Please remain standing for the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at our twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watch were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free
Boxing fans, Von James. And now, making his way to the ring, introducing the red corner, Ushore Williams.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to TV 20. It is the King of the Ring Boxing Series, and we are Cleveland, bringing you the very best amateur boxers from throughout the state as well as around the Midwest. And we've got some very talented boxers, and we're starting out with the little fellas. And I'm talking Ushore Williams. He's a young man who came in at 61 pounds. He comes to us from Toledo, Ohio, Team Carnell. He's going to be taking on Lamari Gilbert of the Martin Luther King Premier Boxing Club in Cleveland, Ohio. And as you can see, they start him extremely young.
Gilbert.
And there he is, Lamari Gilbert. He'll be making his way into the ring. And this is a tremendous complex. It is, of course, the Firebird Sports Complex here in Cleveland, Ohio, where they are having today's big-time King of the Ring. What's so good about this is that you have to understand that the referees that are in the ring are there for the protection of these young men, to make sure that nothing happens to them. And boxing can be a very brutal sport, but at the same time, when you have professionals such as Earl Jewell, who happens to be the young man who is talking to, of course, our next fighter and our future star of boxing. Earl Jewell himself was an accomplished amateur here in the state of Ohio, a Golden Glove champion. And of course, when you talk about the weigh-ins, well, this is what it looked like as they got ready to hit the scale. Well, once again, it's King of the Ring Boxing Series number 6. I'm Ronnie Duncan. It is time for the weigh-in, and one person we want to bring in just before the weigh-in is the man behind Productions Plus Productions. He is Mr. Doug Patterson. Doug, if you can come on in, because we want to know exactly what this decorated weigh-in is all about.
You know, Ronnie, what we do, we try to teach the young people what it needs to be as a professional boxer. So King of the Ring is the farm team of the pros. They need to know this is what it's going to be like when you move to the next step. Attitude, personality, being prompt and doing what you're supposed to do makes you to the next step. So King of the Ring, that's what it's all about. King of the Ring boxing is about the youth.
Good enough about the youth. We're about to meet the young men who are going to be boxing in the 60-pound championship. First, let's bring to the ring, and of course, with him is Michelle from Teresa's Pieces. He is Ushore Williams, 60 pounds, out of Toledo, Ohio. We're going to put him on the ring. And of course, this young man is very excited about his fight. And what does he come in at, Michelle? At 60 pounds. Tell me, how excited are you about this one?
Just ready.
He's just ready. Now, who is he going to be facing? Well, he's going to be facing Lamari Gilbert. And coming in with Lamari Gilbert, of course, is his lovely young ringside girl. And there he is. And let's see, how many pounds does he weigh there? All right, we've got him at 60 pounds as well. Give them a round of applause. Both of these young men weighing in at 60 pounds. And we are back and getting ready for Lamari Gilbert against Ushore Williams, 61-pounders. And you can tell that these young men are full of energy and they are ready to go. Let's go to our ring announcer, Paul Shield.
And now, boxing fans, our first bout of the evening is in the 60-pound division. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, and he represents Team Cartel. He is Ushore Williams. And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner and representing MLK Premier Boxing Club, he is Lamari Gilbert.
Well, there you have it, these two young men, Lamari Gilbert and Ushore Williams, 60-pounders. They both weighed in, as a matter of fact, at 61 pounds for this bout, and they are ready. Earl Jewell is your referee. There's the bell for round number 1, and you can expect plenty of action when these young fellas get into the ring. And what you like to see is how well they follow instructions from their corner and whether or not they're able to get inside and outside with the jab. And as you can tell, Williams and these two guys are really putting it together. Williams and Gilbert. Seems like Ushore Williams has a lot of aggression going on from the red corner with the all red on. His opponent, Lamari Gilbert, with the white top, the blue trunks trimmed in gold. That time, Gilbert took a strong right hand from Williams. Plenty of action. It's about volume punches when you're this young. You've got so much energy. He ran right into a straight left hand, and that is the bell for the round number 1. Now, of course, when these are the amateurs that are just starting out, it is not the 3-minute round. It is a much shorter period. Let's listen into the corner to see what instructions these young men are receiving. Look at these kids, and they are definitely putting it together, as you can see. Look at Williams and Gilbert going at it. They might be missing, but every time they miss, someone's going to connect. Let's get ready for round number 2 of this 3-round contest between these little 61-pounders. LaShawn Williams in the red, Lamari Gilbert in the blue trunks, trimmed in right. Strong right hand that time by Williams. Gilbert appears to have lost a little bit of that momentum he had there in the first round. Williams' corner is calling for combination punching. Got to be impressed that time by the way Gilbert was able to get underneath those punches. Look at that. Oh, the referee's going to step in. He almost stepped out of the ring, losing his balance somewhat, but he is still fighting back. He might be the smaller of the two. I speak of Gilbert in the white top, but he continues to try to fight on. Now Williams is getting a little wild in there, and Gilbert has not been able to capitalize on that. Gilbert goes down. It wasn't because of a punch. He slipped, and he's fine. Referee Earl Jewell is, of course, sending Williams over to the neutral corner. And that's the end of round number 2. Once again, it's a 3-round contest. It is the king of the ring. And these young men are really hearing it from the crowd here today. And of course, from Teresa's Pizza, we have our lovely ring card girls who come in. And they bring, of course, all of the great sights and sounds of boxing. Let's take a look at some of the highlights from round number 2. And you can see what happens was, when Gilbert went to step back, he stepped back so far and he's so small that he almost knocked himself out of the ring. But one thing you have to say is that LaShawn Williams has been coming through with a lot of punches and punches in bunches. What's happening is that you've got the smaller fighter in Gilbert, who basically is not able to get off the way he would like to. As you see, he slipped that time. Referee Earl Jewell did not call it a punch, but a slip. Now they're going for it all this time because it's the 3rd and final round of this contest. These 3 people in the ring. Earl Jewell doesn't take a punch, but these young men are punching enough for Earl Jewell and everybody else. Now you're probably watching this at home and saying to yourself, wow, they're too young to be fighting. But Floyd Mayweather fought at this age, and that was what was so good about him. What you have to love about amateur boxing is safety comes first. And even though it looks extremely physical, these young men have been training for this moment. And just the opportunity to win a championship belt means so much to them. Today's bouts are being brought to you by Production Plus Production. That's Doug Patterson. He, of course, is one of the leading referees, both wrestling and boxing, in the area. And he does these King of the Ring boxing series to introduce young men and young women to some of the finer aspects of boxing. He tries to find venues and give them a professional atmosphere to let them know what it's like to be in a really big fight and to have the television lights and cameras on them. And that is it. So now we're going to have our judges who are going to get together to decide who won this competition. And it's going to be very interesting. Everyone's a winner in the sport of boxing because it takes a lot just to step in. Taking a look back at round number 3, as you can tell, both young men were really putting down the leather. And one thing Gilbert recognized is that he would have to do some movement in the ring. He tried to get in his jab, but it was quite obvious that being a smaller man, he was fighting at a tremendous disadvantage. But one thing you can say about Williams, he was always on attack. And this is a great learning lesson for either one of these young men. And even though one might come around with a championship belt, they're both champions in my mind because of the simple fact that anytime you have the confidence and the courage to step into a boxing ring, that says it all. Because you were in a situation that it was you against your opponent. And one thing we know is that both of these young men made it this far. They won their quarterfinal and their semifinal bouts to advance to this point. It's unfortunate someone has to win and someone has to lose. However, they're both champions in my book. Two very talented young fighters. And that's what we have here, and that's what this is all about. Real exposure for these young men and women who are part of the King of the Ring Boxing Series. This is series number 6, being held just outside of Cleveland, Ohio, and Bedford at the old Chanel High School, which is now, of course, the Firebirds facility. And, of course, they get a lot done there. I'll tell you what, nice crowd on hand as we take a look at all of the action. Earl Jewell, referee. You know, when you're at the tender age of 7, 8, 9, and you're boxing, sometimes going home not the winner may not be that much of a good feeling. But keep in mind, for these young men, they recognize that it's on to bigger and better things. And as boxers have often said, in situations such as this, you can learn more from a loss than you can from a win. Sometimes you can have too much confidence in a win that loss could mean so much more. You know what you need to work on. You know what kind of styles you need to work against. And when you're in a situation and where it's hostile, you know how you have to respond and how you must react. And that is the great thing about not only training, but being in a situation where boxing becomes a learning lesson. And having a learning lesson is such a vital, important, valuable key. All right, we're getting ready to give, of course, the championship belt to one of these young men. And depending upon what you like, this may not be the easiest decision. It did appear, of course, Williams was the more aggressive fighter, landed more punches, but now we'll wait for the official call from our ring announcer, Paul Shields. Paul, go right ahead and let us know who won this championship fight.
Okay, boxing fans, after 3 action-packed rounds, your winner fights out of the red corner, Ushar Williams.
Ushar Williams is your winner.
And our King of the Ring representative is going to put the winner from Teresa's Pizza, the King of the King belt.
Well, Teresa's Pizza is the sponsor, of course, of the championship belt. That is, of course, is going to be donned by Team Cartel's Ushar Williams. In the 60-pound weight division, he is the king of the ring. But a lesson learned for Lamari Gilbert, a young man who is going to definitely be a star. And this may be a loss, but guess what, young man? One of these days, you'll be wearing that championship belt as well. We'll come back with much more King of the Ring right here on TV 20 because we are Cleveland.
The Northeast Ohio Regional Fusion Center and law enforcement agencies from across Cuyahoga, Lake, Geauga, Ashtabula, and Lorain counties have launched iWatch, a free and anonymous way to directly report suspicious activity, tips, and leads. It's a free app you can get right on your smartphone. This app is not a replacement for calling 911 in an emergency, but this app is a crime-fighting tool. Go to iWatchNEOhio.com to find out more information on how to download this free app. A tip you give could very well save a life.
We're back with more boxing right here, King of the Ring Boxing Series, right here on TV 20. We're in Cleveland. I'm Ronnie Duncan, and working solo for this one, but it's okay. That means you're going to hear me talking a whole lot. But I love boxing a whole lot, and that's what it's all about, seeing some of the best young amateurs in the country. We've got Isaiah Darden, 75-pounder, taking on Ibrahim Mason. Ibrahim Mason is making his way to the ring. Let's take a look at what their weigh-in looked like. as they got ready for their big show. Now it's time for our 75-pound weight class. It is King of the Ring, and this is 75 pounds of some really good dynamite. Let's bring out first Isaiah Darden. Isaiah Darden coming out, of course, with Ingrid. And Isaiah's got his mouthpiece on. You just come right on over, and Ingrid's going to look at the scale, and we're going to find out exactly how much Isaiah has weighed, and he's right there at 75 pounds. Now, his opponent, oh, man, he is, of course, Ibrahim Mason. Come on up, Ibrahim. He is going to be wearing the black trunks, trimmed in gold. Okay, and what do we got there, Evie? He, too, is at 75 pounds. Give him a round of applause. Now, let me get you to step over here real quick, and I want you to look into the camera and tell everybody how good you're going to do later today.
Very good.
Very good. You got it right there. We've got two really good fighters. What about you? Now, you just heard what he said. You got the mouthpiece in. Is he in for a whooping?
Yeah.
He's in for a whooping. That's what he said. All right, 75 pounds. One of these young men will be king of the ring. Why don't you shake hands right now before you even get started? Good enough. All right. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. Give them a round of applause, these two young men. All right, as you can see, we've got, of course, our two fighters in the ring. Ibrahim Mason of Kingdom Fitness Boxing in Cleveland, Ohio, taking on Isaiah Darden of Team Cartel in Toledo, Ohio. These are 75-pounders. And, of course, you talk about two fighters who can't wait to get their hands on one another. These young men seem to be ready. Now, the one thing about Ibrahim Mason, he has a brother who you're going to be seeing in just a few minutes, his Abdullah Mason, and they are some very talented boxers. Ibrahim Mason, of course, is a young man you see right there with the black top and the black trunks trimmed in gold. His opponent will be Isaiah Darden of Team Cartel there in the red trunks. Let's go up to our ring announcer, Paul Shields.
Okay, boxing fans, our next bout of the evening is in a 75-pound division. Introducing first, fighting out of the red corner, representing Team Cartel. From Toledo, Ohio, he is Isaiah Darden. And his opponent fights out of the blue corner. He represents the Kingdom Fitness Boxing Club. He is Ibrahim Mason.
So there you have Ibrahim Mason and Isaiah Darden. Of course, you've got Ibrahim Mason in the red top with the silver trunks taking on Ibrahim Mason out of the Kingdom Fitness Boxing Gym here in Cleveland, Ohio. And, of course, our beautiful round card girl, the very lovely Michelle. All right, let's see what we got here in round number one. Earl Jewell is your referee for this 75-pound weight class. It is scheduled for 3 rounds. And, of course, if it does come to the point where there is a knockout in the amateurs, it's not ruled as a knockout. It is referee stops contest. We got Darden coming out with the jab. Darden, of course, out of Toledo, Ohio, the taller fighter, mixing up with his combinations, and he's making sure that he gets his punches in. You heard him doing the weigh-in. He says he's ready and he's right. And when you're ready and right, your game is pretty tight. At time, Darden, of course, tried to go to the body of Mason. Pretty successful. Mason is fighting going backwards, and that was a pretty hard shot that time, and a right hand by Darden. Darden has a pretty wicked left hook. He leads, of course, with the left hand. The right hand, of course, is his power punch. And that was a really strong right hand to the body that time by Darden on Mason. Darden is punching in combinations, and that is why he has been so successful here in round number one. He's working in his clinches. He's working even when he comes out of his clinches. And that's the bell for the end of round number one. Ibrahim Mason against Isaiah Darden. Darden, of course, looked very impressive in round number one, the 75-pounder, as he receives instructions from the corner. And they're telling him to take time to breathe carefully. That's the most important thing he can do at this time. And during this 1-minute break, and as you can see, Ibrahim Mason, he's listened to the instructions of his corner because he was too available for Darden to hit. And let's take a look back at round number one. As you can see, he was able to move in on him, and even though Mason was able to counter, it was those strong punches and those left hooks that time by Darden. Darden was able to get out of the way, and there's that strong right hand right down the pike. I'll tell you what, for a young kid who is young into the sport of boxing, look at that body shot there. You can tell that he has learned from some very valuable lessons that he's learned in practicing and training for this King of the Ring boxing series. King of the Ring being brought to you by Productions Plus Productions. Doug Patterson, the CEO. A man who is totally invested into amateur boxing here in the state of Ohio. And these are just not about Ohio fighters. Some of these kids come from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Some are from Chicago, Illinois. And they come here with one purpose, to go home with that championship belt around their waist. Ronnie Duncan here at ringside. I'm going to be joined by some very talented people. We'll be dropping in and out just to make sure that I have some company, but at the same time, they can give us some boxing lessons. As you can tell, there have been some adjustments in the second round by Ibrahim Mason, and he was very successful early by moving around. But right now, what you see is that his opponent is making a job to make sure he cuts off that ring. And while there was some early success of looking more toward the defensive aspect, he's finding himself still at the end of some of the most aggressive punches that he's seen in quite some time. We can look back at the round and it can tell us the same thing it told us earlier, that Isaiah Darden out of Toledo, Ohio, has been doing a heck of a job. Let's take a look at round number 2 and see what we can find out. And once again, it's Darden making sure that every time that he throws punches, he's making Mason move. In order to stay away from that arsenal of an attack, Mason has to move. Darden with the silver trunks and the red top. Mason in the all black trimmed in gold. This is the third and final round, and I can tell you what, Mason wants to get at it. Referee Earl Jules says, get back to your corners. Not quite yet until I give you the signal to fight. And they're coming right at him. They recognize it's all or nothing here in the third round. And you gotta love the jab right now by Darden. Darden continues to put the jab. He's doing everything off the jab, and he's boxing in combinations. And he's staying so busy in the ring against Mason. Mason is moving, but I don't think Mason has seen an attack or buzzsaw, the kind of attack that Darden has been putting out here in round number 3. Left hand to the head, body punch and another left hook that time by Darden. Darden continues with a lead left. Those left hooks by Darden have been impressive. That jab, he's keeping Mason on that stick. Moving around the ring, forcing himself into the action, and making sure that once he delivers a punch, he's not in a position to receive one. And that is the end of round number 3. Wow, these young men put on a show. Isaiah Darden getting it done. Ibrahim Mason. And you gotta like that mouthpiece by Darden with the fangs in it. But I can tell you, and I remember boxing at that age, you sure can run out of a lot of gas real fast. Let's take a look at round number 3 highlights coming to you by our excellent crew at TV 20. And that's that left hook I was talking about by Darden, getting it in, getting it out, and making sure he is not in a position where Mason was able to retaliate. Once again, it's all about the jab. And Mason had so much on his mind with that jab that he could never really get his offense going the way he wanted. But once again, these are valuable lessons that these young men are learning when it comes to boxing. Well, the scorecards are in, and pretty soon we're going to find out who is the winner of this excellent contest between Mason and Darden. And, of course, the man